Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, February 16, 2024. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The High Court has dismissed the case challenging SVG's buggery and gross indecency laws brought by two Vincentian men living abroad, namely Javin Johnson and Sean McLeish. Filed in 2019, the case challenged sections 146 and 148 of SVG's criminal code, titled Buggery and Indecency Practices Between Persons of the Same Sex. In the ruling, High Court Judge Justice Esco Henry held, among other things, that the men had no legal grounds to bring the claims in light of the fact that they live overseas and have not lived in SVG for some time. Justice Henry also dismissed the men's argument that they had been forced to leave SVG because of their sexual orientation. The judge ruled that the claimants have not established their claim that they had their freedom of movement curtailed or infringed by the challenge provisions or consequences following from them. The court therefore upheld the government's argument that the laws are reasonably required for public health and morality. Dismissing Johnson and McLeish case in their entirety, the judge ordered the men to pay the Attorney General $7,500 in costs. One of the lawyers for the two men, Juma Thomas, said he was surprised that the matter was dismissed in its entirety.
But we have not yet had a chance to get the judgment and to digest the judgment. So I would await the release of the judgment by Justice Henry. We would read it, we would study it, and then among the lawyers we would see if there's anything else there for which we can trouble another court. But it's clearly too early now for us to make any broad sweeping comment on the decision. It must be said that Justice Henry is a judge of impeccable credentials, erudite in legal reasoning and understanding. So, full kudos and respect to her for all that she has done for the judiciary of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But, yeah, surprised, disappointed, but there's nothing further I need to say or wish to say on this decision until we have a chance to read it and digest it.
In a statement to SVG-TV News, one of the claimants, Sean McLeish, expressed disappointment with the ruling and said he will be discussing the options with his legal team as freedom and equality is worth fighting for. Also responding to the ruling, senior researcher at Human Rights Watch, Christian Gonzalez Bary, said the High Court of St. Vincent and the Grenadines ruling dismissing the cases challenging the constitutionality of the laws criminalizing gay sex represents a travesty of justice for the country's embattled LGBT population. The continued criminalization of consensual same-sex conduct represents a tacit state endorsement of the discrimination and violence that the LGBT people experience in their daily lives and which compels many to look abroad to live freely. It is a sad day for human rights in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the ruling will weaken the rule of law for everyone in the country, unquote. Another human rights group, Equal Rights, Access and Opportunities SVG Inc., which says it is dedicated to promoting equality and non-discrimination in SVG, expressed a disappointment with the court ruling, noting that the decision breaks recent trends in independent Anglophone Caribbean countries where laws criminalizing private consensual same-sex relations between adults have been declared unconstitutional. In a news release, the non-profit human rights group points out that to date, independent Anglophone Caribbean countries where laws criminalizing private consensual same-sex relations between adults have been declared unconstitutional in Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Barbados, and that currently, apart from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, laws criminalizing private consensual same-sex relations between adults still exist in Jamaica, Dominica, St. Lucia, Grenada, and Guyana. Attorney at law Jeshu Badu, who is also the founder and executive officer of the ERAO SVG group, said, reflecting on the decision, quote, "This is a sad day for the LGBTQ plus rights in St. Vincent and the Grenadines," noting that internationally and regionally, laws similar to those challenged in these cases have been declared unconstitutional and in violation of the rights of LGBTQ plus persons, and that these archaic and draconian colonial laws do not strictly enforce, symbolically denigrate LGBTQ plus persons as second-class citizens in their own country and perpetrate prejudice and stigma against them. The attorney called on the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to repeal these archaic and draconian laws and to create and enact legislation that expressly protects persons on grounds such as sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics, including but not limited to comprehensive anti-discrimination laws. The attorney said that it will help to ensure that Vincentians, including LGBTQ plus persons, are better protected from harassment, discrimination, and violence in all spheres of Vincentian society. In other local news now, we hear that the Ministry of Public Service, Consumer Affairs and Sports and the St. Vincent and Grenadines Bureau of Standards signed a memorandum of understanding on Thursday, January 25th, 2024, that streamlines cooperation and directs the communication and exchange of information between the two institutions. A news release says the MOU is another pillar in a multifaceted approach in the implementation of the provision of the Consumer Protection Act No. 12 of 2020. The release says through the MOU, cooperation will be achieved through the following areas: publication of standards, voluntary or compulsory standards, identification of goods and services that has a standards mark, publication of deficient goods, investigation of complaints, offenses. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of the Public Service, Consumer Affairs and Sports, Raymond Ryan, signed the MOU on behalf of the ministry, while Executive Director of the Bureau of Standards, Ezra Ledger, signed on behalf of the Bureau. Witnessing the signing was Clarence Harry, Director of Consumer Affairs and Internal Trade. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves is today celebrating 30 years as area representative for the North Central Windward constituency. To mark the occasion, the Prime Minister distributed monetary donations to several primary and secondary schools in his constituency at a ceremony at Cabinet Room. Each of the primary and secondary school received $3,000, while the school for children with special needs received $1,500. The monetary donations to the 11 educational institutions amounted to $35,500 EC dollars. Addressing the handing over ceremony at Cabinet Room, Prime Minister Gonsalves said he was thinking about a way to celebrate the 30th anniversary of being the parliamentary representative of the North Central Windward constituency, and instead of hosting a rally, which he said will come later as part of the Unity Labour Party's 23rd anniversary in government on March 28, 2024, he decided to make the monetary donation to the schools.
This money is not coming from the government, it is coming from my pocket. $31,500, which is more than twice my net take-home pay every month. So that is more than 2 months, much more than 2 months' salary net. Almost 3 months' salary. This is, I wish I could do more, but I wanted to signify to that because above all else, for the achievements that we have had over the last 23 years as a government and the 30 years when I've been a parliamentary representative, I consider the education of the young people and their development to be the single most important thing that we have to do. There are other things, take care of old people, make sure people get jobs, develop the country, do the airport, do the Rabica Bridge, do all sorts of big capital projects. Provide a social safety net to support people. But I think very importantly is to give to the schools. And I know when I give to the schools, the children will benefit, because I know that the principals, they have their accounts. I made the checks out in the names of the schools. My staff had the account numbers, so they're all on the face of the check. And I know from time to time you all need to do little things where you need. I know you raise funds for yourself to do little things. The government also puts resources, and that's why I have Curtis and Permanent Secretary Michael Burke here.
Recalling his earlier days of struggles to arrive where he is at today, Prime Minister Gonzalez encouraged the students to work hard and make use of the opportunities that are available to them today.
And everybody go in secondary school, because that is one of the reasons I had a lot of bright boys and girls in Connery who didn't get a chance to go to secondary school because the opportunities didn't exist. I'm speaking at the funeral of one of them and delivering the eulogy of one of them on Sunday. Casley Tony was 1 year. He was born in 1947. I born in 1946. Intelligent fella. And there are many, many, many. And that's why it was so important when I came to office that I had to make sure that every single boy and girl, once you're 11 plus 12 years old, you have to go to secondary school. So you understand why is it that I ask you to come here in the celebration of my 21st anniversary. I had thought about my 30th anniversary, on the 24th of February, 30th anniversary of parliamentarian. I had thought about going to each school and give the check. It'll take a lot of time. But I thought that it would have been better to do it this way. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I thought it's better to do it this way, so we can all do it together. Now, the opportunities which you have to use them. And the children from the school with special needs, I know just a few students who are there. We had to make sure, because I always used to rail against the very poor school which they had. In fact, it was like nothing. The one was just close down to the hospital. Then we did a temporary one elsewhere, a board one, and then we had to do a good one at where it currently is. Bought a building, fixed it up, and so on and so forth. And I want to thank all the teachers and all the families who work together, and the communities and the children at the various schools.
10,000 broiler chicks were distributed to 8 beneficiaries under the UBEC CERT CRW SVG Food Insecurity Project on Thursday, February 15, 2024. A news release from the Ministry of Agriculture Communication Unit says this batch of chicks marks the 5th installment received from Gales Agro Products in Barbados. Chief Vet Officer Dr. Katian Haksha Herbert said the distributions are a crucial element of a larger strategy to maintain a consistent supply of table eggs to address the traditionally high egg prices often observed in the month of December. According to the project coordinator for the UBEC CERT CRW SVG Food Insecurity Project, Colville King, the program is set to continue with another distribution scheduled for next month. King said that each batch of chicks is accompanied by feed and technical support, ensuring that farmers have the necessary resources and knowledge to rear healthy birds. words. Cassio Toby of the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology said the project has already shown tangible results and is expected to have a sustained impact on food security in the country. The SVG Food Insecurity Project seeks to enhance food and nutrition security by increasing the production and productivity of chosen commodities, particularly among business-oriented small farmers and fishers. The initiative aims to establish a fast, cost-effective and sustainable food production system in SVG. The project is a joint effort of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labour, along with the Economic Planning Division of the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology. All murders committed in the communities in the Eastern Division over the last year have been solved and persons have been arrested and charged. This is according to head of the Eastern Division, Superintendent of Police Hezron Ballantyne, at a town hall meeting in Georgetown last evening.
The only district that apprehend and make all arrests in those murders. This is a field we wish to continue, and we must also give credit to the officers, but mainly to you, the people of the Eastern Division, who assisted the police when these heinous acts were committed. Mention must also be made about the Connery and the Georgetown magisterial courts within our district, presided over by the Lord Magistrate Mr. Boti Pompey and his efficient clerk, Mrs. Ryan, who work tirelessly and efficiently with lawyers, prosecutors, and all involved to ensure a speedy dispensation of all court matters.
ASP Ballantyne, however, expressed concern with some serious criminal offences in the district and is pleading with residents to comply with the law, noting that the problem with pretty larceny is getting out of hand.
Some of my concerns, though, are, of course, pretty larceny. Our people's main source of livelihood is farming. Yet too many of our farmers are experiencing theft of their produce or animals. But you know what is heartbreaking? Some of these acts are committed by other farmers also, and of persons outside of this division, and we have evidence to support that. Burglaries, they are concern to us also. Another vexing situation, something that is troubling me also and us at this division, and I know it's affecting other officers in their division, is children cycling after hours. We have had instances where most time our children are cycling without alarms, helmets, lights. This is a very dangerous act which has claimed the lives of a few of our youth. We have also received many reports of excessive music at functions. We passed the allotted time given and had reasons to close these functions prematurely.
Explaining the procedures of the upcoming 90-day gun amnesty, the Eastern Division had encouraged persons in the area with illegal firearms and ammunition to surrender them during this period.
Another area we really solicit your support is to make use of the Firearm and Gun Amnesty Act, which will take effect from the 1st to May 31st. Between now and then, once you bring in an unlicensed gun to us, bring as much as you can, from 1 to a million. There will be no question asked. And what is even better is that there would not be any charge laid against you for having in your possession an unlicensed firearm. But note, after the 90 days period, which ends May 31st, and you are caught with a firearm or ammunition, there are dire consequences. You can forfeit your freedom and life behind the prison walls, away from your friends, your families, for a long while. I am sure many of you have heard convicts saying they don't want to go back to prisons. It is not nice wrong at all. And so I encourage you, bring those guns, bring those ammunition now, and try not to have the dreaded experience behind the bars. Our country has recorded the 7th murder. We never know who is next. So I implore, I beg, I beseech, I encourage, and I pray that you, even at the sound of my voice, bring the weapons to the police or the person who is vested with the authority to take these weapons to the authority of the police.
And the fire station will be placed in the central Leeward community of Bary in due time and in other identified communities. On WFM's Cop Chat program yesterday, Inspector of Police Curtis Clark said that conversations are ongoing as it relates to decentralizing fire engines across the country.
Yes, in conversations, and I think we would have procured a vehicle, a fire truck, for the community of Bary. Where we are intended to put a fire station there. But there's a little hold up. I am not too sure as to the logistics of it.
Okay.
But there's a hope to have a fire station in Bary. And we are looking in putting fire stations throughout St. Vincent. There have been many conversations surrounding that. And we're just waiting for, the government as well, because they are the main source of financing. We will try to seek that this through private entities, and conversations are ongoing.
Inspector Clark said new stations would have to be constructed to facilitate the fire engines, which they are hoping will start this year.
Would it be sometime this year?
We are hopeful that it will be this year, because at present we would have procured 2 trucks, one for Beckwith and one for Union. The airports. The trucks that they are using at present belonging to the Kingston Fire Station per se.
Okay.
They belonging to the government, but what I meant is that they were placed at the fire department in Kingston, but we would have sent them to Beckwith because there was an issue where the trucks there at the time they had some problems. So once we get back these appliances, I believe things will be put in place to help to staff other areas. But before we go into staffing other areas with fire trucks, we must have buildings.
Okay.
Because you can't have a fire truck station in an area. Back gone are the days when you used to have a fire tender. Mostly it was a Land Rover Jeep stationed at different stations.
Yes.
Throughout St. Vincent, and those were mainly the tongues.
Okay.
Yeah, but there isn't the accommodation anymore for that. So new stations will have to be able to facilitate these appliances and the men.